can the Nigerian government be able to harmonize all the data that we have, looking at the numerous platforms that we have that deals with Nigerian data?
Well, will Nigeria be able to, can Nigeria do that? The answer to that question is a yes. Will Nigeria do that? Is the answer to the question is we don't know.
Probability.
It's a probability. We don't know. Can Nigeria do it? Is a yes. Will they? Is another question entirely, because you need to look at the politics behind all of this. The people that feel that, you know, international contribution to the quality of election that we have, especially with regards to voting strength, might sway elections in a direction that they're not ready for just yet. Yeah, somebody might, you know, get in the way of the bill or the process even, you know, seeing the light of day. Because if people are going to be voting by mailbox or whatever system that makes them do that, to a very large extent, you cannot manipulate that. To a very large extent, you cannot manipulate that. Or else, just like he said, do we have the technological infrastructure to even host that in the first place? You would just hear, the emails never got here. You know, oh, the turnout for, you know, international Nigerians in diaspora voting was low. But we need to see how, you know, INEC is ready to even integrate this in the first place. So I think the twist here is in the fact that we're already starting in 2024 to have the conversations around 2027 election. I hope that, you know, probes your mind a little to wonder what's really about this 2027 election, as it were, because I think we're starting a little too early. It's never too early, but when you look at the history of Nigeria and its trajectory to preparations for election, you would agree with me that this is unusually early in an administration to be decisively talking about the next year. And this also might have come on the back end of, you know, the Ghana elections that happened, for which Professor Mahmoud Yakubu also came under fire for some of his, stance, some of the things he said about the elections, where, you know, where Nigeria stands, where Nigeria succeeded, what he felt, you know, Ghana had learned from us. So it now, you know, peps up the conversations about certain questions that were posed at INEC just after that. But as part of that also, we see that INEC is looking to review the use of PVCs as a sole means of accreditation. The first question you want to ask is, if INEC is considering an alternative for PVCs, question number one, did we even succeed, you know, with the use of PVCs? Why did we fail at it? And why are we looking for an alternative? Wouldn't it be better if we try to understand and harness the benefits of PVC first before looking for alternatives? Now, creating an alternative, and when you look at it, it looks like, so we'll run the alternative side by side with PVCs. How much more irregularities would that be bringing into our elections if we allow that to fly? These are key issues that we need to be looking at this time that INEC is considering an alternative, you know, to PVCs. And it would be worrisome. If we didn't get it right with PVCs, what's our guarantee that having PVC on the side and an alternative will be a success path? Or are we about to cry premium tears with the next elections again? You know, so we have a video to this credit. We'll just take it and then we'll delve right back into the conversation.
All the agencies responsible for data, and see how we harmonize in relation to our mandates, and see if there are areas of overlaps and areas of convergence. Then we come to the National Assembly to say, can you push this for us to make what we believe should happen? We should have an engagement amongst ourselves with all the agencies responsible for data, and see how we harmonize in relation to our mandates, and see if there are areas of overlaps and areas of convergence. Then we come to the National Assembly to say, can you push this for us to make what we believe should happen? We should have an engagement amongst ourselves with all the agencies responsible for data, and see how we harmonize in relation to our mandates, and see if there are areas of overlaps and areas of convergence. Then we come to the National Assembly to say, can you push this for us to make what we believe should happen?
Well, harmonization is a big word. Are we really ready to harmonize all of the windows that we have used in the time past? And this is a conversation of, is INEC about to, bite more than it can chew, or are they ready to actually? Because it's going to be a problem for us if we start on this and we cannot get it right. Like, we start on it and it's not an excellent delivery, then that is going to be a problem. And if this is not excellently delivered, we are looking at further destroying the framework of electioneering in Nigeria, because the introduction of the PVCs and the beavers and all of that was already a thing, right, that we're still trying to embrace. In all of the years that we've already used the PVCs, we have not gotten to 100% functionality with it, and we're looking at, fresh introductions. I think that this is going to be a problem. But, Professor Yakubu is talking about the fact that, and to be fair, Nigerians have had the conversation as to the fact that INEC needs strong reforms. And these are some of the reforms that, INEC is proposing. The second question will be, yes, we want the reforms, but do Nigerians really want Professor Yakubu Mahmood being the one to frontier those reforms? And I think that's a question that we'd rather want answered.
Well, it is a lot to demand for the Nigerian government and INEC as an electoral institution. But then you're looking at some of the key issues that we have to first and foremost deal with. That is the issue of legislation.
Yeah.
Remember, the 2022 Electoral Act gave us a lot of things to dream and aspire about.
And also lots of loopholes.
Lots of loopholes. And of course, we also saw lawyers in Nigeria having field days as to explaining different things away. We can't forget in Akwa Ibom State the standpoint of Barrister Mike Igeni and what INEC at the federal level stood to also represent in the issue that played out between the APC in Akwa Ibom State and the PDP at some point, and then other political parties. But for us to start this right, like Professor Mahmood has said, whether Nigerians would want him to be the one piloting the transformation or not, first thing would be the conversation between the stakeholders, the government agencies that has to do with data management of Nigerians. That would be the first step to take. And then you leave that step, you're also going to talk about the legislation that will give the needed backing, the needed legal backing for the harmonization of the data of Nigerians into one single place, where we can now be certain that, okay, with the legal backing in place, the legislation has been accented to by the president. These are the provisions of the legislation. These are what it empowers the different data management agencies to do. And so this has given birth to one single identity for every Nigerian, and by this one single identity, then every Nigerian who is of voting age can actually vote using that one national identity. I mean, now we're talking about VIN for voters number, we're talking about NIN for national identification number, we're talking about BVN, we're talking about different identities for individuals in Nigeria, as compared to just having one person having one means of identification that by the moment that is keyed into any system from anywhere in Nigeria or anywhere around the world, as long as you're a Nigerian, that represents that individual, that provides all the data that needs to be taken up about that individual. I think we can do it as a country if we actually set our minds to do it. It is going to go down to the political will, the governance will, and of course the resources that are needed. And yes, we do have those resources. And don't forget, we're also talking about having census in 2025, which of course will also tell us the exact number of people that we have in the country. Now, all of these are a holistic process. Census can be a lot more easy to conduct if we have these processes in place already. So by census, by this singular platform, you would know the number of people in Nigeria. You would know those who are parents. And it would be easier for us going forward to even conduct the next rounds of census, maybe in the next 10 years after 2025, You can simply just look at the number of Nigerians who have children, who are married, or who have children, and then be able to ascertain, or just ask research questions or survey questions based on the number of families that you have, and you'll get to know the number of families, get to know the number of children, and we'll be able to put exact numbers of Nigerians, that we have in the country across the 6 geopolitical zones, across the different states of the Federation. So technology can make a whole lot of things easier for us as a country. The question will always be, are we committed as a country? Are we committed as a people? Are we ready for the transformation that this technology will bring? And like you raised a valid concern, Uyai, having technology being introduced into everything in Nigeria would definitely mean a lot of the hanky-panky-yankee that we have politicians do, a lot of the corruption that has to do with numbers, especially when it comes to election, will no longer happen. And so there are definitely a lot of people who are going to be fighting against those moves from becoming a reality.
Well, as an alternative, to also using just PVCs for accreditation, we know that the BVAS machines are supposed to work in a far more excellent way than they have worked in the history of the election so far. Yeah, so there is a lot of back-end technology or usefulness of the BVAS machine, that we haven't yet harnessed. And that's why, Professor Yakubu is also saying that with the introduction of the BVAS machines, we don't necessarily need to use just the PVCs for accreditation as we have done in time past. And these were also suggestions that came off the back of the 2023 elections and all the other off-cycle elections that we recently had. So, the INEC is now looking at reviewing that PVC accreditation system solely, to now looking at having computer-generated slips that people can use. Instead of PVCs, we now take a computer-generated slip, things that, and this should be something they can also download on the website of INEC. We do hope that the website will work, we hope that the website will work while we're at it. Not that we'll now say, that we have 10 million Nigerians on the website, so the website crashed, So these are some of the projections that INEC is looking, one of the reviews that they're hoping to have. So in 2027, here goes slips. But you have to think 10 steps further. In what ways have politicians tried to outsmart the systems that have been put in place to make our elections credible? When we now introduce these e-slips, what are the likely issues that we may have here? Now, in these days that we're having cyber crime and cyber attacks and all of that, is there a possibility of these slips being duplicated, these numbers, being harnessed from the internet space and used to influence elections? We need to see how that, so that we do not hear that, you have to think about these things. We are going for elections, but you hear that, 5 million, 10 million, 200 million Nigerians had automatically been verified for elections, and you somehow find that they had voted in places that voting didn't go on.
Didn't happen.
But we should have a lot of hope with this. Our best bet is, as they start on this journey, they have to look for a way that they implement it in such a way that it does not leave loopholes for the elections to be manipulated.
Well, we definitely can, have all of that happen in Nigeria if we actually want to. Because for politicians and criminal elements to be able to have a field day, there must be a sabotage within the system.
Absolutely.
But if we're able to cover all the loopholes and enclose all the back end doors where this individual can come in, then it would be a walk in the park for us as a country. Literally in Nigeria, going by the last 2 weeks conversation of Nigerian police force, the raid and the arrest of some individuals who were committing cyber crimes against the country, we cannot say we do not have individuals in Nigeria that are capable of hacking everybody else out of our system and making it secure. We have those individuals. It's just a matter of the Nigerian government picking up those talents and making them part of the government, putting them in the government employ. So when you have those, we oftentimes will sit and talk about how it is possible for people to not hack into the Western agencies and Western organizations that easily, because they know the value, they know the importance of having professionals who are also hackers. It takes a criminal to know what a criminal is trying to do, and then be able to block that criminal out. So we need to get to a point in Nigeria where, since we want to get into technology and we want an all-round technology driven elections and other sectors of the Nigerian economy, then we should be willing to hire competent hands who are going to be able to cover our back end and make sure that nobody can have access to it. Going back to 2023 elections, remember, even one of the issues we had here was registering the media houses, for instance. You have the access given to you by INEC, you have the website given to you by INEC, but you are stuck on a particular level of filling the forms for days.
Yeah.
At some point, INEC had to do physical accreditation, as opposed to, you know, giving media houses accreditation on the platform and your tag just come automatically generated based on the number of personals that you've filled in. So those are things that INEC needs to look into.
We need to come infrastructure ready.
Exactly. So it's not just about, you know, the harmonization. It's not just about wanting to go, you know, digital, as the case may be, but it's about putting in the right infrastructure, having the competent hands to ensure that on all fronts we are covered, and, you know, politicians will not be able to have a field day.